Hi there. My name is Ian McNaughton. This is the Ian McNaughton Show. This is the Speak Your Piece podcast. So thank you very much for joining me. I'm recording right after the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defeated the Dallas Cowboys 31-29. I'm going to be discussing that game as well as a little bit of NFL. I'll also be doing my Ian Preview Sports for the Italian Grand Prix, which is the F1 race this weekend in Italy. And then I'm also going to be doing my Ian Preview Sports for the rugby matches that are happening this weekend, including Canada and the U.S. meeting the second leg of their 2023 Rugby World Cup qualifying. You can watch each of those videos individually on our YouTube channel, so be sure to subscribe to that. Let's get into the football game. Let's dive right into it. Tampa Bay wins 31-29. It's their first game in front of a full stadium of fans since pre-pandemic. Tom Brady looked terrific as always. Dak Prescott making his first start since week 5 of last season. He looked really good as well. Brady, he went 32 for 50, 379 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, which Collinsworth mentioned at the end. One was off the hands of Leonard Fournette, and the other one was at the end of the half on a Hail Mary. So not really his fault in terms of interceptions. Dak Prescott, he completed 42 of 58 passes, 403 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Both quarterbacks were the story of this game. It was a duel. It went back and forth up until the very end when Brady led the Buccaneers on a late drive to seal the deal. And I think that's what the NFL is. That's what football is. It's your stars. It's how you market them. And your quarterbacks, have to be your guy, have to be the guy for you to win, the guy that you rely on the most. And for each team, their quarterback was the best guy. Their quarterback was their guy that they leaned on, and they both played extremely well. One of the reasons why Dallas lost this game, I don't think it's the big reason, but one of the reasons why Dallas lost was because of Greg Zuerlein. Zuerlein missed 2 kicks and an extra point. The weird thing about this game was that it was some coaching mistakes as well with the Zuerlein thing, because he had the missed extra point. He had the missed field goal. That's not really on coaching. That's on the kicker to do his job, and he didn't do his job. Whereas at the end of the half, pretty much, you have 15 seconds left in the second quarter, and the coaching staff calls on Zuerlein, who already missed these 2 prior kicks, calls on Zuerlein to nail a 60-yarder in Tampa Bay with the humidity. It wasn't going to happen. It just wasn't. Like, he already missed those kicks. The weather and the humidity, it made it very sticky. Ball was not going to travel 60. Well, I guess it traveled 60 yards, but it wasn't going to go through. And that's where a lot of my issues came from this evening, with some of the coaching mistakes and poor management from the Cowboys. Like, it feels like this team is not shooting himself in the foot, but they always feel like they're coming from behind, at least in this game. And it felt like a bit like that last year with McCarthy. But calling on the field goal team to nail a 60-yarder at the end of the half, which they didn't nail, but also leaving, enough time and field position for Brady to go and at least attempt a Hail Mary, or if he really wanted to make a play to put his team in field goal position, possibly if they decided to go that route. They didn't, but it leaves them the option to put extra points on the board, which I didn't like. Defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, former Falcons head coach, former Seahawks coordinator, he's the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys. They're calling on DeMarcus Lawrence, who's probably their best defensive player. That's what Collinsworth said on the broadcast, and I agree with that. I really like him. He's the best pass rusher. He's paid to be a pass rusher, and he was called to cover Gronk on Tampa Bay's 4th touchdown of the game. Essentially, that put them ahead, and then the Cowboys got their touchdown. Tampa Bay got the game-winning field goal. But calling cover 0 is a bold strategy. It's a very bold strategy in the red zone. Bold strategy. Calling cover 0 and then having DeMarcus Lawrence, your best pass rusher, cover Rob Gronkowski, who by all accounts, is probably not the guy he was in his prime. He's he's aged a little bit. Like, that's a mismatch. That's a terrible decision. Having your best pass rusher, who you're paying to pass rush, to go after the quarterback and have him cover one of the best tight ends in the league, one of the toughest matchups for anybody, it just made me angry when it shouldn't have. That frustrated me. And then there were some play calling issues I didn't like in the red zone. They had that weird speed option, which was actually just a missed tackle by Blake Jarwin, who's the tight end. They ran it a few times when I thought it was obvious that they shouldn't have ran. However, I did like some of their scripted play calling at the beginning. They used quite a bit of motion. They had a couple of trick plays in there. Some not weird formations, but kind of what Marvin Lewis used to do with Cincinnati quite a bit, where they would line up in these weird positions and then go to another formation that they really wanted to run their play off of. Like, just that sort of stuff to kind of get an idea of what the defense is going to do when you line up in these formations. You may not run it right now, but if you want to run in the third quarter, the fourth quarter, you get an idea of what that defense is going to look like. So I thought there were some ups and downs, a bit more down than up with the Cowboys coaching staff and management. And again, it felt like they were coming from behind, partially because of their own mistakes and their own coaching failures. That's something I'm going to have to, consider the rest of the season when watching the Cowboys and possibly betting on them, because that's just something that I don't want to support or don't want to, believe. I can't trust that. I can't trust a coaching staff who gets in its own way. And it seems like Dallas is still doing that with McCarthy. This is Dan Quinn's first regular season game as defensive coordinator for the Cowboys, so he's still probably making adjustments. I hope he learns not to put DeMarcus Lawrence in pass coverage ever again. Ezekiel Elliott, I thought, had a solid impact where needed. The running game is maybe not there. That's a bit concerning, especially when you're paying him that much money and you want him to be a running back and he's not running very well. That's a bit concerning. I'm not going to lie. One thing I did notice with Elliott was that he did a tremendous job of picking up blitzers at least through the first half, where he was picking up linebackers who were blitzing, some edge rushers when they were doing some stunts. He did a terrific job with that. And he must have done, 6 or 7 different times. He must have done it 6 or 7 different times where he just picked up the blitzer, coming right down the middle. Maybe it was Levante David or Devin White at linebacker, picked him up and gave Prescott an extra second or two to make a pass and to make a throw, which helped Prescott quite a bit. Now, I get that that's not why you're paying him, and that's a really expensive trait to pay somebody for. However, that is important, and I think that is a positive in a way, because that takes some high IQ, some smarts to be able to know who the Mike linebacker is, who could be blitzing, who should be blitzing on this play, and pick that guy up. And know where they're coming from, know which gap they're coming from. I think that's a tremendous ability, because of the fact that you have to be paying attention. You have to have the smarts and the knowledge to know where that's coming from. You don't do that by mistake. That doesn't happen by accident, you picking up blitzers. That's not, just I didn't know he was coming. No, like, where that guy is coming. And that's what I really, appreciated the most about Ezekiel Elliott tonight. He did that constantly. More often than not, he was picking up blitzers. He was giving his quarterback an extra second or two to make a play. And that's going to go a long way. I know he's got to be better as a rusher, got to be better as a runner. He wasn't really much of a pass catching option tonight. But if he can, take that little thing of picking up blitzers, especially, third downs or, critical situations like he did, hopefully that can lead into something more. If he can get confidence from doing that, he can get, transfer that confidence into being a runner or a pass catcher, whatever. So, again, up and down night for Ezekiel Elliott. I liked his backup, Tony Pollard. I have him on one of my fantasy teams. I thought he would be a good handcuff to have just in case the Zeke thing didn't work out this year. And I'm happy with the prospects that I have with Pollard. He was looking like their gadget guy early on the reverse where he faked the, pitch back, but he actually took it himself. That was really cool. He looked like a passing option on some screens for the Cowboys, which was really nice to see. They're utilizing him. They're using him in a bunch of different situations, and I was happy to see that. It's a real nice change of pace compared to the old Cowboys under Jason Garrett, who just never seemed to motion, never seemed to do anything exciting on offense, was bland from start to finish. And now they have some sort of gadget guy, might not be the right word, but at least some guy who can be a pass blocker, who can be a runner, that he's a running back. He can run the football. He can, pass block, pass catch, run block, run the ball, whatever. He can be that guy. I don't know if they're going to use him as a decoy, if he's that, noticeable, if he's going to have that kind of impact. But I was impressed with his week 1 performance. The other thing I want to mention, speaking of running backs, Tampa Bay's running backs. Ronald Jones did not come in after his fumble, which was a great punch by DeMarcus Lawrence. That's why you have DeMarcus Lawrence, pass rushing or blitzing, is because he can make impact plays like that. Fournette, he had that bad, I don't know if drop, if that's what you want to call it, but the ball just went off his hands when Brady threw it to him, and it went into Trevon Diggs' hands, and he got the interception for the Cowboys. However, Fournette was helpful in the second half for the Bucs. He, had a couple noticeable runs, had a couple noticeable pass plays. Fournette is a really good running back. I don't know. I think people know that. He obviously had a lot of success with Jacksonville for a few years there. He had a good season last year with the Buccaneers. Like, he is a good running back. He's, more a north-south running back than he is a Ronald Jones type, who's like a one-cut or a speed back, who can be more of a pass-catching option. That's not quite Fournette's role. That's not quite who he is as a running back, but he showed in the second half that he can be versatile if needed. And it was nice to see that after a few mistakes, Fournette figured it out. He helped his team go to victory. This is another thing I'm going to be watching down the stretch here in the rest of the season, how Tampa Bay's running backs perform after this year, and how Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich, the OC in Tampa Bay, how they use their running backs, because ball security is job security. And both guys had noticeable turnovers today. So I guess Fournette's the starting running back this upcoming week. You would think so after the second half performance that he had, but who knows? That's something that, we're going to have to be paying attention to in week 2 for the Bucs. Otherwise, I don't have a lot else I wanted to say about this game. The coaching staff, it's night and day between Bruce Arians and Mike McCarthy. It really is, between emotions, the time management, clock management, time management, whatever you want to call it. It was just night and day. I thought defenses were really incredible. I got to shout out Vita Vea. He was fantastic at the end of it. He was causing disruption for all the Cowboys offensive linemen, mostly Tyler Biadasz, who's their center. And it impacted Dak Prescott's, fourth quarter. Granted, they were winning with a minute to go, but Vita Vea did all he could to try and help his team win. So that's my reaction to week 1 of the Bucs versus the Cowboys. I'm hoping to do more type shows like this for the Ian McNaughton show. I'll probably also throw some of my Ian Review Sports or Ian Preview Sports on here as well. Because I like to do the full show, but sometimes it doesn't happen. I'll probably be doing more of the Monday, Thursday type primetime games because my Sundays are going to be really busy. So, thank you very much for listening to this. Be sure to stay tuned for the Ian Preview Sports for the Italian Grand Prix, the F1 race this weekend, and Ian Previews Rugby for the rugby matches this weekend. So stay tuned for more. We'll be right back. All right. Welcome to Ian Preview Sports. My name is Ian McNaughton. Thank you for joining me. Today I'm going to be previewing the Italian Grand Prix, which is going to be taking place this weekend in Monza. I've been lacking a little bit in this because I've been quite busy, and I knew I was going to be quite busy, but I didn't quite schedule this properly. Hopefully, now that I'm going back to school and that I've got my schedule sort of figured out with work, that I can do these more regularly. I know when to do these. So let's get into it. We're going to be discussing Monza first, the circuit that we're going to be racing at, which is officially known as the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. That's going to be where we're racing this weekend, the Monza circuit, which is obviously one of the most famous circuits in Formula One. It's 5.793 kilometers, 3.6 miles. Race laps, we're going to be doing 53 laps this weekend, which is about 306.7 race kilometers, or 1.9 or 190.5 race miles. There's 11 turns at Monza. It's one of the fastest circuits in the world due to the straights. I think you're on the throttle about 88% of the time at Monza. That sounds about right. It's one of my favorite circuits. I don't really hate a lot of. I hate more circuits. There's more circuits I like than I hate. Monza is one that I really like just because of the speed. This is really a good test to see how fast your car really is, how fast it truly is. And you know, we already had the race in Imola this year. This is our second race in Italy this year. So we get another Italian racetrack, which for the most part, it's pretty good when we get to race in Italy. There aren't many better. There aren't a ton of better places to race in the world than Italy. So the last 5 Italian Grand Prix winners, obviously Pierre Gasly won last year with AlphaTauri. Charles Leclerc won in 2019 with Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton won in 2018 with Mercedes. He won in 2017 with Mercedes, and Nico Rosberg won in 2016 for Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton is tied with Michael Schumacher for the most wins at Monza with 5. He can break his record with a win this weekend. And let's get into the standings a little bit. Currently leading away is Max Verstappen. He has 224.5 points. We have the half points because of the race in Belgium. That wasn't really a race, but it was a race, but it wasn't a race, but it was a race, but it wasn't. Lewis Hamilton is second with 221.5 points, 3-point difference between Max and Lewis. Valtteri Bottas is third with 123 points. This is his last season with Mercedes, of course, because as it was announced this week, he is moving to Alfa Romeo next year, whatever day, week, time it is. Lando Norris is fourth with 114 points, and Sergio Perez is fifth with 108 points. So there's a 15-point gap between Bottas and Perez, and Norris is right in the middle of it. The 2 Ferrari drivers are 6th and 7th. Charles Leclerc has 92 points. Carlos Sainz has 89.5 points. Pierre Gasly has 66 points. Daniel Ricciardo has 56 points. And rounding out the top 10 is Fernando Alonso with 46 points. So there's 20 points difference between Gasly and Alonso. Ricciardo in the middle, splitting the difference. 11th in the standings, Esteban Ocon with 44 points. Sebastian Vettel is 12th with 35 points. Yuki Tsunoda, Lance Stroll, they're tied with 18 points. Tsunoda is ahead of Stroll due to better positions. George Russell, 15th with 13 points in his Williams. Nicholas Latifi has 7 points in his Williams. So that leaves Kimi Räikkönen with 17th in the standings with 2 points. Giovinazzi, 18th with 1 point. And Schumacher and Mazepin down at the bottom. Over in the constructors, it's quite close as well. Mercedes leads the Constructors Championship with 344.5 points. Red Bull's right behind with 332.5 points. Ferrari is ahead of McLaren right now. Ferrari has 181.5 points. McLaren has 170. Alpine has 90 points. AlphaTauri has 84 points. That's the battle for 5th. And then in 7th is Aston Martin with 53 points. They're in no man's land. 8th is Williams with 20 points. 9th is Alfa Romeo. They have 3 points, and then Haas is at the bottom. So it's going to be another close race as well heading into Monza. You know, Red Bull, they haven't had a whole lot of success at Monza. Max Verstappen hasn't won a race in the last 5 years at Monza. So it'll be interesting to see if Red Bull can get it done this weekend. I have 4 questions. My 4 questions coming into this weekend: can Ferrari redeem themselves? Last year, Sebastian Vettel had to leave the race due to a brake failure. Charles Leclerc, he crashed going through the final quarter of Parabolica. He crashed at about the 75% point of Parabolica, ran into the wall. His race was done. He suffered a concussion from that, I believe. So he was unable to finish for Ferrari. Now, after having no drivers finish last year, Ferrari is looking to have both drivers finish, maybe even in the top 5 with a better car, better drivers, maybe this year. I think Charles Leclerc has stepped up quite a bit from last year. Sainz seems to be an upgrade over Vettel. So that'll be really interesting. This is their home circuit, essentially, for Ferrari because they're racing in Italy. They usually do well in Italy. They have the most wins for a constructor at Monza with 20. If there was a time for Ferrari to redeem themselves, this is it. Will McLaren improve qualifying and race pace? Last week was underwhelming. Lando Norris started the race 13th. Danny Rick was 4th, I believe, or he started in the top 10. A bit underwhelming. I don't know if that was just a Zandvoort thing where they were getting used to the circuit. It wasn't quite their pace. It was a fairly balanced circuit, I'd say, all things considered. So I don't know. I think that's maybe just a 1-week blip. They'll perform better this time in Monza. Because last year, remember, Carlos Sainz finished 2nd in his McLaren behind Pierre Gasly. So whether that means anything for this week, we don't know. We'll find out. How will Bottas and Russell perform with the new announcement? So obviously this week, Bottas announced he's going to be going to Alfa Romeo. George Russell is going to Mercedes. Russell with Williams has basically reached its peak, I'd say, by getting a 2nd place finish in Belgium, even though that wasn't a race. But it was a race, but it wasn't a race. I don't need to do that again. So I'm kind of curious to see. Obviously, those two had the incident in Imola earlier this year. I'm interested to see how they still compete, how they drive for the rest of the season. Bottas, not the best at taking, orders from the team. He doesn't always listen. George Russell, I don't know if he's the type of guy who's going to say, well, I'm going to Mercedes next year, so it doesn't really matter what I do. I don't know if he's going to be like that. That's going to be really fascinating for me. I don't know if this weekend we'll be giving a glimpse into what the rest of the season will look like, but I do think it's fascinating. And I want to know whose car is truly the fastest. And Monza is the place in the F1 circuit, calendar of circuits. Monza is the place to truly see who has the fastest car, whether it's Mercedes, whether it's Red Bull, might be Ferrari or McLaren. Who knows? The fastest car doesn't always win. That's true. But I think this is a really good opportunity, similar to, like I said, with the Bottas Russell thing, how they're going to react to all this. This is going to be a really good opportunity to see whose car is truly the fastest and how that plays out for the rest of the season. I can't wait to watch this weekend in Monza, a historic circuit with teams who are just chomping at the bit to, finish off this triple header, I'm sure, and to get more points as we head down the stretch for the Drivers' Championship and the Constructors' Championship. That's Ian Preview Sports for the 2021 Italian Grand Prix. Thank you very much for watching or listening. Be sure to also stay tuned if you're listening to the Ian McNaughton Show for Ian Preview Sports for the rugby matches. If you are watching us on YouTube, be sure to like this video. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content. Thank you very much for watching. All right. Finally, on the Ian McNaughton Show, I'm going to do Ian Preview Sports for the Rugby Championship. Big games this weekend include Canada-US. They're going to be meeting in the second leg of the 2023 Rugby World Cup qualifying series. Canada leads by 14 points after beating the US in their first leg last week in St. John's, Newfoundland, 34-21. So that means the Americans have to win by 14 points or more if they want to advance to the America Ones battle with the next leg against Uruguay. So pretty much the winner of this series will play Uruguay in another two-legged series for the official America Ones spot. That's what's going to be happening this weekend in Glendale, Colorado. Winner moves on to play Uruguay. Loser goes on to face Chile for the America 2's spot. There's a chance that these teams could play once again if the loser of the series beats Chile and the loser of and the winner loses to Uruguay. Basically, these teams can meet again. That's going to be the big game in North America rugby, Canada versus US. I can't wait to watch that. That's going to be a big game Saturday night in Glendale, Colorado. We'll have coverage of that later on. The Rugby Championship, it's getting back up this weekend. New Zealand is playing Argentina. South Africa is playing Australia. They're going to be playing at the Seabus Stadium. What is it called? There's a proper name for it. Seabus Super Stadium. It's a super stadium in Gold Coast in Australia. Those two matches will take place next to each other. New Zealand versus Argentina will go first, and then the Springboks will play the Wallabies right after. New Zealand currently is the top team in the Rugby Championship right now. They have two significant wins over Australia. The Springboks, they are second after their 2 wins against Argentina. Now, after some restrictions, some quarantine, the 4 teams are kind of mingling together, going to get together and play against one another. Those are going to be really great games. Check them out. Early Sunday for me, Pacific time here in Vancouver. But still, check them out. We'll have coverage of that as well. Also, shout out Nathan Hirayama. He's the Canadian Rugby Sevens player who retired earlier this week. The sensational star for Canada in their pursuit for Rugby Sevens fame, stardom, trying to, build up the nation of Canada as a sevens team. Nathan was a big part of that. I don't know what I've been saying this for a while. I don't know what the equivalent of like a jersey retirement or Ring of Honor or whatever it is for, sevens players. Nathan deserves to be in there for all that he's done for Canada, rugby in this country, rugby sevens. He's been a big part of that. So congratulations to Nathan. Best of luck in your retirement. I hope you find something that you're passionate about and that you enjoy doing. So that's Ian Preview Sports for rugby this weekend. That's also the Ian McNaughton Show. So thank you very much for watching. Be sure, again, like this video, subscribe to the channel, listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We'll be back again soon. We got some big SYP pods coming out. We'll be back again soon. Peace out.